Hey guys, and welcome to Faithwerks Designs. I'm Faith, and today we're doing another exciting pattern. This is my last pattern of the year, so I am so excited to show you guys and finally get a break. I've been looking forward to this. It is the Trunk of Requirement purse. Now, if you've seen, I brought out the luggage bag, and all of my testers were like, Faith, we have got to have that in purse size. So, I adjusted the pattern a little bit, so it's a nice little pattern. So you've got your double handles on this one. A lot of my testers wanted double handles on the luggage, so we did the double handles on the purse, and then on the back you have to have a slip pocket on the back of your purse so you can throw your phone in or your keys or whatever into the back. And then it's just really cute. And it's not binding. I know you guys are going to be so excited. It is a turning method, and I gotta tell you up front, it's a little more advanced than some of my other patterns have been. Just the very last two steps are kind of a little tricky, but watch the video through real quick and just see if it's something that you think you can do. On the inside, I'm going to post some pictures here because it's a little difficult to show you the inside right this second because of the way the purse is built. So you have got a zipper pocket and you have got a slip pocket on the inside. If you wanted to do something different, you most definitely could. So anyway, you've got a bunch of connectors on the outside, just like you did on the luggage bag. So you can put it either side, whichever way you want it to. So both sides, which I thought was really nice. And that way you can kind of adjust it, because not all of us are left-handed and not all of us are right-handed. So it'll be nice to adjust it. Anyway, alright, I'm so excited to share this with you guys. I hope you like it. Let's get started. Alright, so let's go over sides and pieces and all of that jazz. Hopefully you can see that, sort of. Okay, so what you're going to need is you're going to have your front center panel and then your back center panel. Then you're going to have your side strips. They're going to go on each side of your front and back panel. Then you're going to have your left and your right thicker strips. Just need to make sure that they're facing the right way because this print was kind of hard to tell. Okay. Editing Faith is going to put the name up there. Then you're going to have your outer strips. These are going to go on the outside of each of your front and back panels. They are slightly larger than your inner panels, so you're going to have your outer panels and your inner panel strips just to make sure that they're in the right spot. This is going to go towards the edge of your bag, and we're going to have to add rivets down the center. And to make sure that our rivets aren't super close to our edge of our bag and our seams, I just made them a little bit larger. Okay, so that is the front and the back of your bag. You also have your little slip pocket. If you wanted to, you can add that. You can leave it. It's up to you. I just felt like it needed like a slip pocket on the outside. Alright, so you have got your side panels. So you've got your upper side panels and then your lower side panels. Your upper needs to be mirrored of each other so that they both kind of go off each other. On the bottom, you need to make sure that your rounded bits, if you're using a print, is facing the right way. Ask me why I am mentioning this. I cut it upside down I don't know how many times. So just make sure that your rounded bits are at your bottom and then your rounded bits are at the top of your uppers. You are going to need your handles. We're not interfacing these just because I didn't feel like it needed it. If you wanted to, you could. It's up to you. You're going to have your slip pocket accent piece. You should have 8 connectors. So you're going to have rectangle connectors and you're going to have D-ring connectors. We're going to have 4 on one and 4 on the other. Hardware, we're going to need zipper tape. We're going to be using number 5 zipper tape. The measurements for all of that will be in your instructions. You're going to need 4 3/4 rectangle rings. You're going to need 3 number 5 zipper pulls. You are going to need a ton of rivets. You don't have to use them for the decorative part of your front if you don't want to, but I like the way that it looks. It makes it look more of like the trunk. I don't know. It just looks more like it when you add the rivets. So I have added those to all of mine. Alright, so the very first thing we need to do is grab all of our connectors, and then you're going to put a piece of 1/2 inch by 3-inch piece in the center of all of your connectors. Then you need to draw a center line so that you can fold each side in on itself, and then we're going to go to the sewing machine and stitch those down. So let's go do that. Alright, I have got my stitch length at a 4, and usually I would tell you guys to use some double-sided tape and tape down those edges, just kind of hold them in place. It's up to you. I allowed myself to go and be out of tape. So it is on its way, but it won't be here until Monday. So I've got things to do, so we're just going to do it the old-fashioned way. So you're pushing each side to the center, and then at 1/4 inch you're just going to sew those sides down. I have a size 12 needle in, if anybody wants to know. It's normally the size that I use for K&A's fabrics, just because of my machine. It's just going to depend on your machine what size needle you're going to need to use and what size material you're going to be using. Alright, so you're going to have your right side, and then you're going to have your wrong side. This is how I'm going to reference putting these in. This is the side that we folded into the center and then top stitched it down. This is going to be the wrong side. Just wanted to let you guys know when I go to reference it later when we put our invisible connectors in, that's what I'm talking about. Alright, I'm going to finish all 8 of these and just do it in super speed. Alright, so we've got all of our D-rings ready to go. We're going to set those aside for a second. We're going to grab our back slip pocket panel. That is upside down. Okay, I'm using another vinyl because it's the only thing I have to match what I've got going on here, because my lining still hasn't come in yet. Hopefully it'll be here in a couple more days, and then I can finish this bag. Alright, so you're going to have your outer and you're going to have your lining, right? We're going to put those right sides together, and don't gun-ho go sew this, okay? What you're going to be doing is you're going to be sewing the upper and the bottom together. You're just going to be sewing it across. Then we're going to turn it right side out, and you're going to be top stitching along the top and the sides, not the bottom, and there's a reason for that. So, just wait. Let's go sew this together. We're just going to be sewing across the top and the bottom. Alright, now that that's done, we're going to turn this right side out. Would I recommend vinyl on vinyl? No, I would not. But my machine can handle it, so I am not super duper worried. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew up the side, across the top, and then back down. Do not sew across the bottom. When we sew it to our back panel, then we'll sew it across the bottom so that it will look nice. Alright, let's go do that. Now what we're going to do is I took this panel, I folded it in half, found the center, and made a notch on both of my sides. And then I got my back panel and I found the center, just fold it in half, and then I found the center on both sides. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to match those up, flip them together, and what we're going to do is we're going to take it to the sewing machine and stitch here, top stitch across here, and then back up again so that they'll be base stitched together and ready for the next step. Now, we've got our pocket, our little slip pocket. You need to make sure that you know which side is up and which side is down. So this is going to be your top, okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to grab our rectangle rings and 2 of our connectors. And you're going to lay this out on your table just like that. You're going to take one of your rectangles, put it in the center, close it up, and then what you're going to want to do from the top edge is measure over 3/4 of an inch. And it's going to sit right there. You're going to have 1/2 inch of that connector poking out past the panel, because it's going to get sewn twice, because it's going to be one of those handles that are going to be used a lot and handled a lot. So we don't want that going anywhere. We don't want it breaking. We're going to sew it twice. Alright, clip those in place, and then take this, same thing, close it up, 1/2 inch out, 3/4 away from the edge. Alright, so that one is done. This is your top because that's the slip pocket. Alright, we're going to take this to the sewing machine and we're going to base stitch those together, but we're going to go ahead. We're going to grab our front panel and do the same thing and do them at the same time to save ourselves a little bit of time. So we're going to grab 2 more rectangles, 2 more D-ring connectors, a few more clips. Alright, so you want 1/2 inch sticking out on each edge. Alright, like that. So the edge of your connector is 3/4 inch down. Alright, we're going to go base stitch those in place, and let's go do that. Alright, I have got a 4-stitch length, and you want to make sure that these don't move around, because when we go to add the rivets later on, if they're in the wrong spot, they're going to look weird. So, did I say I have a 4-stitch length? And I'm just sewing across them and sewing them in place. And you want to do that to all 4 connectors. Alright, so those are base stitched in place. We got our front and our back. Let's go ahead, and the next thing that we need to do is lay out our pieces together. Okay, so your panels, your back panel should look like that. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to do both the front and the back panel at the same time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to piece all of these pieces together, and then we're going to sew them, and then we'll put the rest of them together. I'm trying to make this a little bit faster than the way that the suitcase went together, because I was doing each piece and taking it to the sewing machine, and that's going to get old. So during testing, I was like, forget this. Alright, so take your outer edge and put it on the next panel. We're going to clip those together. It took forever because, you know, there's a lot of these panels. It's going to be worth it when it's done. Alright, so those 2 are clipped together. Now we're going to take this other outer panel and put it right sides together. So you should look like that. And then we're going to take these and put them on each side of our center panel. So we can take this all to the sewing machine at one time instead of having to make 20 trips back and forth to our desks. So that's what I was thinking in this video. I was like, we got to do something faster. Alright, so there is your back panel. What we need to do is take this to our sewing machine, and at 1/4 inch, we're going to sew down this side, this side, this side, and this side. But we're going to do our front panel at the same time, and hopefully it doesn't get too confusing. So let's pick all these up. You're going to have your front panel, your side outers. We're going to do the same exact thing that we just did to the back panel. So you're going to put these 2 right sides together. Alright, now same thing. We're going to sew these 2 together, these 2, these 2, and these 2. So let's go do that. Alright, so I have a lot to do. What I'm essentially doing is I'm going to be sewing them together, and then I'm going to open up my seam allowances, and I'm going to stitch down my seam allowance on both sides. So I'm going to show you real quick on this one. Let's do one more, why not? Alright, now that that's done, I'm going to put my stitch length to a 4, and what you're going to be doing is you're going to be opening these seams up, and then you're going to be stitching them down. I'm going to do that with 1/8 inch to the seam. I've got a 4 stitch length, if I haven't said that already. And what you're doing is you're just kind of feeling with your fingers and pressing that open. One of these days, if I keep doing projects like this, I'm going to have to find somebody that has those little seam roller things. You know what I'm talking about? I was like, does anybody sell them and have them in stock? Because I keep doing patterns like this and I need a seam roller thing. So your seam on the front on your right side should look like that, and on the back side your seam should be open like that. That's what you're going to want to do to all of these. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through sewing them all and then base stitching them open. But there's a lot of them, that's why I kind of want to fast forward through them. Alright, can you see all of that? Alright, cool. Now, we've got all of our pieces sewn together. You can see that we did the top stitching of the seam allowance down. When you get to the center panels, you're going to do it a little bit differently, and I meant to mention that, but all we're doing is flipping that side to that side and top stitching it down. Because of the connector being there, you couldn't press the seams open, and because of this, that is really thick, you couldn't do it. So you're just going to do that one seam down just to kind of top stitch it so that it lays flat like that. You're going to do that to both your front and your back panels. Now we're going to do the same exact thing that we just did to save a little bit of time. So this piece is going to go to the center on both sides. Alright, we've got all of that clipped up. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to do just like we did with the other pieces. Sew it 1/4 of an inch, open it up, open up the seam, sew up and down it. But we're going to be doing it with the D-ring connectors, or the connectors facing us. And that way we're not going to be running over them just yet. So we're going to have to lift these connectors out of the way when you sew. Alright, let's go do it. Alright, I'm back to a 3-stitch length. And just sewing 1/4 of an inch from the edge. And I'm going to do all four sides. And when you get to that D-ring connector, just lift the D-ring connector up so that it's out of the way. Alright, now that that's done and sewn together, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take these seams and push them open. We're going to top stitch all the way down and all the way back up like we've been doing, but we're going to have that D-ring connector be a part of the party this time. He gets to be a part of the party and he's going to be so excited. Okay, so we're sewing down one and then back down the other. That's going to catch our D-ring connector a little bit more so that the handle is a little bit sturdier. We're going to be putting a rivet right there. We just don't want this handle to break or tear off or anything like that. So I wanted to show you this is what the back is going to look like after you top stitch up and down each side. And then that is what the front is going to look like top stitched down each side. So go ahead and do that on both sides of your bag. Alright, so these are all done, top stitch and ready to go. Your panels should look like this. You've got, make sure that your slip pocket's up there. Alright, next thing we need to do is we need to take them and put them bottoms to bottoms and then right side to right side. We're going to match up our seams, and depending upon how you do seam allowance, you guys know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you get a little extra and you don't realize it. I'm trying to match up all of my seams and all of the strips so that when I look inside of my bag or on the bottom of my bag, all of these are lining up. Alright, we're going to go to the sewing machine, and at 1/4 of an inch we are going to sew those together. And we're going to open it up and we're going to top stitch. Alright, I've got a 3-stitch length and I'm just sewing across. Alright, so now we're going to open it up, and it's going to be hard with that one place where it's a little doubled up, but you can do it. So I'm going to turn my stitch length to a 4, and then I am just top stitching like I've been doing on all those panels and strips, so that the bottom of our bag is nice and flat. Alright, so this is what the body of your panel should look like. This is your front and back and your bottom all together. Now, this roam is a little bit of an optional thing. If you're using a domestic, you're probably not going to want to do this part. If you're using industrial, you'll be fine. For your first one, I would suggest not doing this. But for me, you guys know, I like Peltex. It gives my bags a nice stability. Even with the Decovil light, I feel like it's not, if I'm not using waterproof canvas, I feel like it's not as sturdy. Hold on. So this has got the Peltex in it, and it stands up really, really nice. And I like the way that feels. I haven't made one without the Peltex just because I knew I wanted it to stand up on its own. And so that's why I've used it. If you don't want to use the Peltex, it is not written in law that you have to do that. But I cut my Peltex to the size of my panel. And then I'm just going to clip these two together and then base stitch all the way around. Now, if you're not doing the Peltex, go ahead and go to the next step, and that is going to be putting your rivets on. Alright, so we've got a 4-stitch length, and then base stitching just means that we're going around the edges just to make the two pieces kind of hang out together, and so that they're not slipping and sliding when we're trying to work with them. So it just connects them, and you do it at 1/8 of an inch all the way around the edge. Alright, so rivet placements. Where are we going to put them? Alright, so your very first rivet placement is going to be 1 inch and 1/8. We're putting them on all of our script. So we're going to have one here, one here, one here, and one here. You want to make sure they should be, if your connectors are in the right spot, your rivet is going to fall right in the center of where your handle is. We want that just for a little extra security so that the handle is not going anywhere. Then you place it at 1/8 and make sure that you make all of your marks. Then take your ruler down 3 inches from that first mark that we made, move over 3 inches, and mark right here, right here, right here, and right here. Then come again at 3 inches and mark here, 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 and here. I've got my little tool so it'll wipe away. I mean, it doesn't really matter. You're going to cut that hole out anyway. But a tool that you can use, or a marker that you can use, that will wipe away. You're going to do this on your front panel, and then you're going to turn it around, and you're going to do the same exact thing on your back panel. You're going to have your 1 1/8 mark, 3 inches, 3 inches on all of the script part. Once that's done, we get to cut all of these holes out. Yay! Alright, so I've got all of my holes punched out. I went ahead and put some rivets in it so that this little bit could be a little bit faster. Once you have your holes punched out, you're going to want to take your rivets with the stem, and I'm going to place them through the back. So I'm going to put them, there should be 6 on this side and 6 on the other side. You're going to be using a lot of rivets, guys. Sorry. I just thought it looked nice. Alright. So once they're on the backs, you can see that the stem's sticking up. Place the cap of your rivet right on top, and then what you're going to do is just smush those in place. Your front panel for now is done, so we're going to set that aside. I'm going to squash those in a minute. Next thing we're going to do, if you've chosen to use the Peltex, I cut some pieces of Peltex the same exact size as my upper and then my lower side panels. And what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to go to the sewing machine and then just base stitch around the edges. So I've just got it with the wrong side to my Peltex. So let's go do that. So I've got a 4-stitch length, and I'm just base stitching around all of them. If you're not using Peltex, you don't need to do this. Just go to the next step. Take your bottom panels, set those aside for right now. We're going to work on our uppers. Now this is going to be a little bit of math, and I'm hoping the editing Faith can make it so that you can see everything. Alright, we're going to take one of them. We're going to flip it over, and we're going to put it on our desk, like so. You want to match it up. This is 2.5 inches wide, right? Okay, so we've got the rounded bit facing me, because you want that part close to you. This is going to be the top of your bag. So what you're going to do is put your ruler so that there is a 1/4 inch. There should be. This Peltex is standing out a little bit more. There's a 1/4 inch on this side and a 1/4 inch on this side. You see? So that we have a center right here of our panel, right? So it's 2.5 inches wide. But if we have a 1/4 on this side, a 1/4 on this side, it gives us a center mark. Okay? I'm trying, y'all. It just keeps wanting to move. Okay. We're up 1 inch onto our upper panel. Here is the center. Here is where it gets confusing. Okay, so here's our center, right here where the 3 is. We need to go over a 1/4 and a 1/4. That gives us 1/2 inch, right? Our D-ring, our D-ring connector is 3/4 inch wide. So if we've only got 1/2 inch, we've got to go over 1/8 inch so that we can make it into 3/4. I know that probably didn't make any sense. Here's your center, and if we mark here and here, that's 1/4 on each side of the center. That's only 1/2 inch. If we go to 5/8 on my ruler here and 3/8 on my ruler here, because it's in the center of the number 3, that is going to give us the 3/4 that we need. So let me do this. There you go. Okay. See where it's at 5/8 and 3/8 on each side of that center of the 3? That's what we need so that we have 3/4 inch opening. I hope That made sense. I know. Alright, let's do it again. So you're going to put the roundy bit next to you, or facing you, towards you, and I'm going to have 1/4 of an inch on each outer edge. So I'm going to go to 3/8 and then to 5/8 because the 3 is in the center. This is the only way that my brain can do it. So we're going to have 3/4 of an inch right there. We're not opening up where I'm marking up. I'm just trying to show you on a ruler. Alright, do that to all 4. We're going to take an X-Acto knife and we're going to cut that open. So you're going down through that Peltex to your vinyl on the other side. So you should have your hole all the way through. Once you've got all of your holes, you're going to grab the rest of your connectors, and with the wrong side facing up, we're going to put it into that slit that we just made. And you're going to put it so that it's an inch down like that. And you're going to do that to all of them. So wrong side facing up. Oh, go in there, please, and thank you. I'm probably going to straighten these up when I get to my sewing desk because I know they're going to move. I know they are. It's what they do best. Alright, so what we're going to do next, and I'll probably have to show you at the sewing machine. So we need to stitch inside of this connector all the way to the other side, inside. You don't want to go past the connector, over anything. We want to stay on the connector. We're going to sew right beside that slice line right there. We're not stitching on this side. We're stitching on this side and only on the connector. Alright, so I have got a 4 stitch length and I'm stitching right on that connector. I'm going to back stitch 1. I'm sewing right beside that cut. Alright, so that's what that should look like. Do you see my stitches right there? That's where you want them. You don't want to close this off, otherwise we can't slip this in and have that hidden connector. And your back will look like this. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of them, and then we'll move on to the next step. Alright, so we've got all of those sewn, you cut all of your threads. Next thing we're going to need to do is add our D-rings. I accidentally, like an idiot, ordered 1/2 inch instead of 3/4 because that's what I do. You're going to slip your D-ring on so that that flat part is looking up at you with the wrong side of the D-ring facing you. And then you're going to take this tail and put it back through the slit that you made. Hi! What you doing? Hello! I know it's cuddle time, I'm sorry. Hold on. And if you need to, you can take some pliers and you can pull that through just so that it sits right. Okay. If you have the 3/4 inch D-rings, this will sit so much better. But, okay. So basically, that's what you want. Right like that. So you put your strap back into the hole that you cut. The next thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to make a hole 1/4 of an inch from that slit. Hi, Mama. Ma'am, I'm trying to do things. So you want your hole right as centered as you can get it. And then we're going to take our stem and we're going to place it through the back of our hole that we punched. Alright, once you have your stem through the back, you're going to grab one of your cats and then you're going to put it on top like that. And then you're going to squish it, but you're going to do this to all 4 of your little side panels. So let's do that. Alright, so you should have all of your D-rings onto your connectors. They're going to lay down a lot better once you have the 3/4 inch. Now what I would do is I would take the D-rings and just kind of push them down so that they won't be in the way for the next step. Set those aside and we're going to grab our front and back panel. First thing we're going to need to do is on each edge is we're going to measure 6 1/4 inches on each side and make a mark. So lay your panel out on your table and then measure 6¼ inches. And we're just marking right on this edge. You need to know where your panel goes or where it stops. Alright, so on each end you should come in 6¼ inches and make a mark. On the opposite side, 6¼ inches and make a mark. Once you have your 6¼ marks on each edge, what you're going to need to do is measure out 1/2 inch from that. So 1/2 inch towards your outer panel and make a mark. This is where you're going to stop sewing. So you're going to mark 5 3/4 from the outside edge. Alright, so you're going to have a 5 3/4 mark and you're going to have 6 1/4 mark. This is where we're going to stop the end of our connector, and this is where we're going to stop sewing. We just need to make sure that everything's lining up, so that's what that 6 1/4 mark is for. Okay, let's try that again. Alright, so I'm going to take one of my connectors with the D-ring facing down. I'm going to get this edge right here, and we're going to match it up with the 6 1/4 mark right here. Then what you need to do is where you're going to be rounding it out around this bend, you're going to need to make some snips. So take some really sharp scissors, right in that 1/8 inch seam. Hopefully you can see that. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this edge right here and put it right next to that. Okay, so your panel should look like that. It's going to start bending up into it. Okay, we're going to do one side at a time, and that way it'll be a little bit easier, hopefully, for you guys to understand what we're doing. So let me take this to the sewing machine. If you have staples, you might want to go ahead and use them for this project because the clips are going to start flying soon. And if you need to, just use as many clips as you need. Let's go to the sewing table and I will show you guys where to start and stop and all of that stuff. Alright, so the way we're going to do it is with the wrong side facing us. And that way we can see where our marks are to stop and where our marks are to start. So you've got your very first mark. That's the end of where your panel goes. We're not sewing there. We're starting on the second mark so that we have that 1/2 inch seam allowance, which you will find out about later. Right now we are sewing with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and you're going to want to make sure that we are back stitching really well. And I've got a 3-stitch length. I don't know if I said that or not. Now we're going to find another one of our connectors. Again, you want to make sure that the roundy bit is facing the outside of your bag towards the top. Alright, so we're matching up the end of our connector with that second mark. So we've got 2 marks. That second mark is where you're going to want to put the end of your connector and then start clipping them together. Where it starts to round a bit, you're going to grab your scissors and make snips in that 1/8 inch seam allowance. Bring this edge to here. So this edge and this edge together. So now we're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to sew that connector on. And we're going to do it just like we did before. We're going to have it so that the wrong side is facing us and then sew around. Alright, so we're starting on the edge. You're going to do opposite sides. And I take that first clip off every time and it wants to go flying. Alright, make sure that you are back stitching when you start and when you stop, because the panels really want to fly away from each other. Alright, so we've got this side all connected. It should look like that. Alright, I'm going to do the other side. I'm going to turn this around so I can actually reach it. Okay, so you're going to want your rounded corner towards the edge. We're going to match up this end with this second mark. And just repeat for the next two. You're going to do the same exact thing, making sure that you make snips where it gets round. Alright, go to the sewing machine and sew this together. Alright, so this time we're going to start at our marks because we're just happen to be on that side. And I'm going to hang on to everything so it doesn't go flying. Alright, it's starting at that second mark, not the first one. Alright, last one. I'm going to make sure this end goes to that second mark. Flipping around, we're just going to repeat. Alright, we're starting at the edge this time. Alright, so all of our connectors are connected. What you're going to need to do is push those out. Alright, once all of that's done, you're going to need to grab your larger zipper. And what you're going to do is you're going to take it and peel it apart. Now, I know some of you guys are having a heart attack, but it's going to be okay. I'm going to show you how to put everything back together. You're going to be alright. Alright, we're going to take one end. I'm going to do my front first. This is going to be your right side, and this is your wrong side. We need to put the right side of our zipper to the right side of our outside of our panel, and then clip those two together. So that's what it should look like. We're going to just clip from here to here. Now the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to grab some more clips, and we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So we're going to take the right side of our zipper and put it to the right side of our outside panel. Both zippers are attached. The next thing that we need to do is we need to go to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew them on at 1/4 inch. Alright, so I'm going ahead and I'm sewing it at 1/4 inch. There's reasons. So we're going to go ahead and use our 3-stitch length instead of like your basting stitch for your, normally like you would for a zipper. So we're just using a 3 at 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then you're just going to go all the way around the zipper, attaching it to your outer panel. Now that we've got our zipper on and ready to go, let's set this aside for right now. We're going to grab our slip pocket panel. I just ironed it, so it's a little wet. Alright, slip pocket panel. So you're going to have it really wide, and then you're going to have it really narrow. You're going to need to take it with it narrow looking at you, and you're going to fold it in half. And then what you're going to do is we're going to clip down both sides, and we're going to take this to the sewing machine and sew the edges. We're just sewing down both sides of these edges, and then we're going to set this aside. Next, we're going to grab one of our zipper pocket panels. What you're going to need to do is I went to the ironing board when I interfaced everything, and I went ahead and ironed it up a little over 1/4 inch, just so that when we go to sew it later, it'll do its thing. So I did that to both of those zipper pocket panels, and that way it'll help me not to forget to tuck it under and it'll kind of lay a lot nicer. Okay, so you're going to take one of these panels, and with the panel facing me, I'm going to grab my ruler and I'm going to go up 1 inch, so up 1 inch from here, and then I'm going to come in 1 inch on each side. We're just making our zipper pocket, y'all. There's a million of them. We've done this a million times. Then you're going to move your ruler up 1/2 inch and then connect all of those lines. Then what we're going to do is grab one of our panels. We're going to grab one of our panels. We're going to take our zipper pocket and we're going to lay it out. Then we're going to grab our ruler and we're going to measure 2 inches up. And then we're going to take our zipper pocket and unfold the very bottom and line those up. So center your zipper pocket and then line it up 2 inches. So you want the bottom of your zipper pocket to be 2 inches from the bottom so that it'll line up right. And then I'm just going to clip these two together. Now I'm going to take this to the sewing machine, and then you're just going to stitch the cat hair all the way around. So let's go do that. Alright, so I have got my slip pocket and we're just sewing down each side. And we're leaving that top open so that we can turn it right side out. Alright, now we're doing our zipper pocket. And we're just going all the way around the rectangle that we made. Alright, so once your slip pocket is sewn together down the sides, you're going to want to clip those edges so that you can turn it right side out and it will sit nice and flat for you. Alright, if you're using cotton, you can go ahead and take this and iron it out so it'll lay flat. The next thing that I'm going to do real quick is take this and go base stitch across the top just so that it'll lay a little bit flatter, and maybe iron it real quick. Alright, then we're going to grab our zipper pocket, and directly down the center we're going to cut open our space. So I folded it in half, making sure I'm only getting the material in between that rectangle, and I'm going to go up to about 1/2 inch and stop. And then I'm going to take my really sharp scissors to the corners, but making sure that I don't accidentally get my stitches. You're going to make that little triangle piece on each of the corners. Alright, now what you're going to do is take the bottom and the top of your zipper panel and pull them through to the wrong side. And while I'm ironing my slip pocket, I'm going to take this over there and iron this as well. And that way they'll both get done and they'll lay nice and flat. Alright, so it should look like that. Let me go iron these and then we'll move on. Alright, we've got that all ironed out so it'll lay nice and flat. I went ahead and grabbed my zipper pocket zipper. I went ahead and put my zipper head on. The next thing you're going to do is when you're inserting your zipper into your zipper pocket, you're going to want to make sure that your zipper is opening to the right, closing to the left. So I got double-sided tape on each side. I don't know that this is going to hold it together. I accidentally ordered 1/8 of an inch tape, which I never do, so I don't know why I did it. But anyway, I'm going to remove the top piece. And then what you want is you want to center it both on the ends of the zipper, so you have the same amount of zipper on the ends right here where your fingers can feel, and the zipper tape is centered in between your zipper rectangle. There you go. Words. Alright, now try and get that 1/8 of an inch tape off. Paper off. Okay. And then let it fall down and lay where it wants to. Okay, now we're going to take this to the sewing machine, and what you're going to do is you're just going to stitch around your rectangle. But before we do that, I've grabbed my slip pocket panel. I went ahead and base stitched across the top. You've got your slip pocket accent piece. I put a line down the center, and then I put double-sided tape down each side so it'll hold it nice and in place for me. So I'm going to take one piece off. I'm not putting my panel right on that line, but right under it. And then I'm going to take the paper off the top and then press them together. I'm going to take this to the sewing machine as well, so we can kind of do 2 steps at a time. And you're just going to sew across there to keep that in place. So let's go do that. I've got a 4-stitch length, and I'm just going at 1/4 of an inch across my slip pocket top. So we'll do that first, and then we can do our zipper pocket. And I am backstitching when I start and I stop where the, you see right here where they kind of join together and then it ends. I went ahead and backstitched right there and then right there where the fabric starts. Alright, now my zipper, I'm going to change my stitch length to a 3, and then you're just going to sew all the way around. Alright, so our slip pocket, let's cut those edges off and straighten it up. So you're just going to be cutting straight up. Now we're going to need to add that to our panel. So you've got your main panel, so that's either your front or your back, it's up to you. And I'm just going to line this up on my desk, and then again 2 inches up from the bottom you're going to put your slip pocket, and then center it as best you can. And then we're going to take this to the sewing machine, and starting here we're going to go down, over, and back up, and then make sure that we backstitch right here. Our zipper pocket is ready to go. So we're going to turn it over and then take our other zipper pocket lining and place it right side to the right side of each other, and then put them together. Now I'm doing both of these at the same time, but you could just do one at a time. Just for me, for recording purposes, it makes my life so much easier to just do everything all at one time. Just being honest. Going back and forth from the sewing machine to the desk to moving the camera all around. It just makes life easier for me. Alright. Now, while we're at the sewing machine for our slip pocket, we're going to go ahead and sew this closed on all 3 sides except for this bottom that we ironed under. We're going to leave that open. I've got a 3 stitch length, and I'm just going to start 1/8 of an inch. We're going to be sewing 1/8 of an inch on the sides, and then just sewing the slip pocket in. So we're going to start on the end where it flaps down and then going over. I have got a 3 stitch length. I'm just going to make sure that we're back stitching when we start. Alright, so our zipper pocket is all done and ready to go. We've got this open so that we can turn our bag through it. I tried to make that zipper pocket as big as I possibly could so you guys would be able to turn it inside out without going crazy. You got your slip pocket all ready to go. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to put the bottoms of our panels together. So they're going to line up like this and make our whole panel. So right sides together, we're going to clip the bottoms together and then take it to the sewing machine and at 1/4 of an inch sew them together. Alright, I've got a 3 stitch length. Alright, now that we have got this all done, I have went and I've pressed this seam open just so that it'll lay a little flatter. You need to go ahead and just like you did with the front panel, you're going to need to measure 6 1/4 and then 5 3/4. 6 1/4, 5 3/4, and make those marks so that we know where our side things go. Alright, let's do one side at a time. I think, again, when they're wrong side, there we go, wrong side, or right side to right side, you want that roundy bit going this way. If you're wanting to go ahead and put them together, that's how that's going to look. Alright, but I like to do one side at a time just to make sure that we're not putting anybody anywhere where they're not supposed to be. And the lining is going to be a whole lot easier to put in because it's not as stiff as vinyl. You are still going to need to make your little snips in your lining to make sure that it goes around that corner. And I'm going to go ahead this time and go ahead and do 2. So I'm lining up the edge of my lining to that second mark, okay, just like that, and then taking this and lining it up. Alright, now that those are on there, I'm going to take my snips and I'm just going to grab the lining for my main panel, not the little side panel pieces. And that way they'll lay flat around that corner. Like that. It's hard to see, I know. We're going to take this to the sewing machine and go ahead and just do one side at a time. We'll sew these on. You're going to start at 1/4 inch, go to 1/2 inch around the roundy bits, around these roundy bits, and then go back to 1/4 inch. That way everything will fit like it's supposed to. So let's go do that. I've got my stitch length at a 3. I'm starting at that second mark, not the first one. And I'm starting at 1/4 inch. I'm going to go up about 1.5 inches or so, and then start going to the 1/2 inch seam allowance. Alright, so we got that one side done. Now we need to do the other side. Same thing. We're finding the roundy bits. That goes on the edge. Get the end of your connector and meet it up with that 6 1/4 inch. And then clip them together. Alright, just like you did on the other side, again, you're going to do it all over again. Watch out for your zipper pocket, because it's going to be in the way. Alright, now that we've got all of our side panels on, the next thing we need to do is grab a small ruler, and on the edge that's open, you're going to want to mark 1/2 inch. That is where we need to stop sewing when we put our zipper and all of that together. So you're going to need to do that to all 4. You could look to the other side, but then you'd have to make sure that you were even, and it's just a pain. So go ahead and just mark that. Alright, now that that's all marked, the next thing we need to do is we need to grab our outer panel. And what we're going to be doing essentially is putting right sides together. I'm going to start on my corner here and making sure that these edges are together. So our lining and our outer panel are all clipped together on each side. What we're going to do is we're going to take it to the sewing machine and we're going to sew them together. What you're going to need to do is at that 1/2 inch mark, and you may have to move this around a little bit because it's a tight fit. You're going to start at that 1/2 inch mark and go all the way around the front, back, and then come all the way back over here and stop at that 1/2 inch mark. So let's go do that. Alright, so I'm starting at my 1/2 inch mark. I have got a 3 stitch length and I am sewing at 1/4 inch. And then you're just going to go all the way around. Also, you might want to butterfly your seams. If your outer panel seam is going to the right, your lining panel needs to go to the left, and that way they're not on top of each other. I meant to mention that and I completely forgot. But it's going to get thick if you don't do that. Alright, those two are sewed together. The next thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to make the right side be on the outside. So turn it right side out. There you go. Now what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to grab a marker that you can mark on vinyl with and a ruler. And on each corner end, you're going to need to mark up 1/2 inch. And this fabric is going to make this really hard to see. So you're going to mark a 1/2 inch up. You're going to do that on all 4 of these panels. We're going to be top stitching our zipper, but we can't top stitch all the way across because of how this is constructed. So you're just going to measure 1/2 inch on all sides. If you wanted to, you could pre-do this. Take your materials and fold them away from each other, and you could, I guess, you could clip them together. It would be really difficult in some spots. I tend to do this at my sewing desk, so while I'm sewing around it, I just kind of move everything out of the way. It's up to you. You could clip it. Alright, what we're going to do is we're going to start at that 1/2 inch mark, top stitch, top stitch, top stitch, top stitch, all the way until you get to this other 1/2 inch mark. And that way we've top stitched it. Make sure that you hold onto your threads when you get started and when you stop so that we can pull them through. Let's see, corners. These corners right here tend to be really hard where the side panel and the main panel kind of connect to each other. You might, if you have a key fob, go ahead and like pre-smash that so that it will stay down. It's just that one seam wants to be a pain in the butt. So let's go to the sewing machine and top stitch both sides. Make sure as you are top stitching this that you are pulling that lining out from underneath of it. You need it to be nice and taut on the inside, so you just need to like pull that fabric as you're top stitching. So I'm taking my fingers and I'm just kind of pushing that lining away from the outer panel. Okay, I'm going to get started and I'm going to back stitch 1. I'm going to stop for a minute. Where that corner was that I was telling you guys about, I'm going to take my key fob and I'm going to squish it down, and it should, keyword there, should be easier to sew through. We're doing an 1/8 of an inch top stitching here, and my hands may or may not be in the way. Sorry. Yes, that was much better. Take your time on this part because it is going to show up. Your top stitching is going to show. Alright, now to put our zipper pulls on, you're going to have the right side of the material facing you. The lining is in the way because it really wants to be a part of the party. Push it out of the way. Alright, so we've got the right side facing us. I'm going to grab one of my zippers. You're going to put the left side on first, then the right side, and then push your zipper down. They're not quite even Steven. Alright, there we go. If they're even Steven, push your zipper on. You're going to kind of have to push that lining out of the way so it's not quite in the middle of your bag, but far enough away from the edge that you don't have to worry about it flying off, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Your lining is going to want to get in the way, y'all. Alright, let's put our other zipper on our other side. Okay, once that's done and you've got both of your zippers, I don't even know if you can see that, both of your zippers on, the next thing that we need to do is we need to grab our lining and our outer panels. And what we need to do is we need to fold these in half, like so, and find the center of your bottom and the center of your top. And that way we make sure that we're putting them in the right spot. Alright, once you have your top and bottom notch, we're going to grab one of our linings and come over to our bag. Okay, so push the outside of your bag in, like those rounded bits. Push them in, and then grab some clips and clip your lining and your outer panel together like that. All right, so that your lining and your outer panels are together. Then you're going to take one of your lining panels, and with this edge right here, we're going to put it right side to the wrong side of our zipper. Your center of your bottom panel should be in the center of your zipper. And I'm going to put a clip there. What we're going to do is we're going to take this to the sewing machine. At 1/4 of an inch, we're going to sew this together so that it just stays put. That's not the final seam allowance that we're going to be using, but that's what we're going to do just to kind of keep everything together. So let's go do that. Something I failed to mention is the way that we're going to sew it is so that the outward panel is up and the lining is down. So we're not going to see the lining that we're sewing on. What you're going to need to do is shove all that lining out of your way and then lay it down on your table. You're going to have to push all of this outer panel out of the way and then put it on your table and sew across here like that. Hopefully you could see that. Alright, so I've got a 4-stitch length and we are just doing it 1/4 of an inch just to kind of base stitch it in place. Try not to get that side panel right there that's wanting to be a part of the party. Alright, we've got our lining sewn on, just like that. Next thing that we're going to do, again, you're going to have to push all of this out of the way. I did want to mention that I backstitched over my zipper so I didn't have to worry about my zipper flying off. I mean, it's not going to go anywhere if you got your zipper on there far enough, but it might. Okay, so right side to the right side, we're going to clip these two together. I'm going to tell that panel to get out of the way. Use as many clips as you need for this just to make sure that it stays still. We're going to take this to the sewing machine again. We're going to take this lining and push it out of our way, and then we're going to take it like this and sew at that 1/2 inch. Alright, so we're sewing at 1/2 inch. I have got a nice thick needle in now, so I don't have to worry about anything breaking. But you're going to go 1/2 inch all the way across. Make sure that the sides of your outer panel are out of the way. Make sure that your lining is out of the way underneath. While we're here, this really helps the bag look nice. When I did this part, it really helped everything just kind of come together. What I want to do is knot your lining, so make sure that all of your lining is out of the way. Pull just your outer panel out, and I'm going to switch my stitch length to a 4, and we're just going to top stitch across there so that it lays nice and flat. Alright, now that we've got this side prepped and ready to go, I find it's a lot easier to just go ahead and get everything prepped and then go ahead and sew everything together. So, what you're going to do is you're going to push your outer panel in so that it'll stay straight, and then take your lining and clip it together all the way across, and then we're going to do just like we did with the other side. We're going to add your lining, take it to the sewing machine, and at 1/4 of an inch, go ahead and sew those together. Just like we did before, we're going to push all of this out of the way, and then we're going to push this down so that we can see what we're doing, and then we're going to take it and sew it at the sewing machine. Alright, again, we're sewing at 1/4 of an inch just to kind of base stitch everything together. We're going to grab our other outer and we're going to put it right side to right side, take it back to the sewing machine, and this time sew it at 1/2 inch to sew all of this together. At 1/2 inch, we're sewing with a 3-stitch length, making sure that your lining is out of the way underneath. Just like the other side, we're going to pull that outer panel out and go ahead and top stitch across it, making sure that your seam is right underneath of it so it'll stand up like that. Now that that's done, I wanted to show you something. So your outer panel, the upper side panels need to be pushed in on both sides so that this next step can be just a little tiny bit easier. We're going to start with our lining first because our lining is going to be the easiest thing to do first. Trust me, you guys have no idea how many versions of this I have made trying to figure out an easier way to do this. Alright, over here where you stop sewing at the 1/2 inch mark, we're going to clip those together, and that's where we're going to start sewing. And then just go ahead and clip all of your lining together on that one side. So you've got your lining together. What we're going to do is we're going to take this to the sewing machine. We're going to push all of this out of the way and then sew around here, and then back up to that 1/2 inch mark. It'll make sense, guys, when I get the first one done and I can actually like show you a little bit better of how it's going to be put together. I must have thought that I was recording and I did not. Crap. Alright, so we're sewing the lining on, and I'll show you in just a minute when I get it done, kind of where I started and where you need to stop. At this point, I'm just trying to hurry this up so I can show you guys. Alright, so we have our 2 marks that is very difficult to see. Where we stopped sewing earlier, you see that one right there? You need to start sewing there with your seam allowance facing down, and that way it gets sewn closed. Then you just go all the way around, and I didn't go far enough, so I'm going to have to go back and do it again. But you're going to go down and around to this mark right here. That's where you're going to stop sewing. So you're going from your first mark to your second mark all the way around your lining. Let me finish this and then we'll go back to the desk. So this is the one corner that I did an awful job on, you can tell. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, so basically you got your lining sewn in. Now you need to do your outside panel. So you're going to match up your center notch in your outside panel with the center of your seam right there. And then you are going to need to make some clips. That's what I should have done in my lining and I didn't. And that's why it looks so bad. But I will do that on the outside because I want the outside of the panel to look nice. I don't really care about the lining as much, but yeah. You're going to take the sides of the outside and bring them forward now. And again, the seam allowance is going to be facing down, and you're going to need to clip that in place. So now you will have your top lining done and your bottom. What we're going to do is we're going to take it with the bulk of the bag facing up, and you're going to have to push this out of the way and sew it like that, which you probably cannot see, but I'm going to be starting on this side. From where this 1/2 inch mark is, you're going to be sewing over your seam that's in the middle so that it lays nice and flat, and then going all the way around until you get to the other side, making sure your seam is facing down and stopping right there at your next mark. I've got a 3-stitch length. I'm starting right at that first 1/2 inch mark that we stopped sewing at, and then you're just going to have to kind of move this around. I'll be honest with you guys, this was so much easier without Peltex. Peltex really does make it a lot thicker. I love the body of it, but man, that Peltex just gets thick. Alright, that side is done, and I just wanted to show you guys. I know it's hard to tell when you're in the middle of doing it what you're trying to accomplish, but that's what I was trying to accomplish, minus the way I did the lining. I'm going to try and do it a little bit better this time. So you're taking the edge here, the bottom notch, and putting it to the center line there. I don't think I mentioned that the last time. But you're going to match those up. And then again, we're starting sewing. You're just going to have to make it come as close as you can get to that seam where our first mark is. You see how there's 2 marks there? The very first one is where we need to start sewing, as close as we can get to it. Alright, again, we're going to want to take this outer panel and get it out of the way so that it's not in our way when we're trying to sew this. Let's go to the sewing machine. I started on the 1/2 inch mark, and now I'm just going around trying to make everything a little bit prettier than my last one. Alright, lining looks much better. Alright, we're going to take the last bottom piece and line it up with that center seam. So you've got your right size to right size, your center seam to your bottom seam. And then I'm just going to clip the bottom. I'm going to come down here and try and get these sides up. You're just going to have to kind of take your hand and push them up. Make sure that the seams are facing down like that. Ooh. And they don't want to stay, that's for sure. Alright, again, we're starting at that 1/2 inch mark. Alright, here comes the fun part. This is why I tried to put as large of a zipper as I could so that we could turn this right side out. Alright, we're going to take our corners in first. Oh. On each side. And this is going to take a minute for me because I used the Peltex. But just take your time, push out the bottoms, and look like a hot mess express. But it's fine. I don't want you guys to miss turning this inside out. So it's really going to take your time. Depends on what vinyl you're using. It takes a minute. But basically, just take each corner, you can't see nothing, and try and get it out. So I'm taking my lining for my zipper pocket, and I'm kind of encasing everything. I'll show you in just a second. But I've kind of pulled that out first, and then I'm kind of pulling it over the body of everything. Now I'm going to start working on pushing the body out. I did it for you guys. No binding. I did it for you. Now, just gotta work on that 3/8 seam allowance that everybody wants. Everybody's like, stop with the 1/4 inch already. Okay, so just take your hand in, straighten everything out. You're almost done. The last thing that we need to do is close up that zipper pocket. And so I'm just taking my hands and kind of rolling the edges. I'm gonna take some Peltex strips and some clips, and I'm going to put them on the edges so that this will actually stand up straight and it won't be all craziness. Another thing that I didn't mention on the luggage bag is that the very top, I've just been kind of pushing it down. There's kind of like a natural seam where this is at, so I've just been kind of taking it and pushing it down so that it'll lay flat like it's supposed to. So like that. Like that. Is it all poofy? Okay, like that. Corners, back, corners. Okay, last thing. Let's pull that lining up, and since we ironed it down, it's going to lay nice and flat for us, so we can take it to the sewing machine and go ahead and sew that closed. So I'm just going to clip across there and then take it to the sewing machine 1/8 of an inch and sew it closed, push it back in, and then we got to do the handle, and then we are done. Alright, let's go do this. I've got a 3-stitch length, and I'm just sewing straight across. Okay, got that done. We're going to push that back down into your bag, and then close that zipper up, and then take your hands and kind of spread them out down at the very bottom. I hear children, so it's time to wrap this up. Alright, there you go. You've got your slip pocket, your zipper pocket, all of that on the inside. And then once we zip this up, it's a cute little suitcase. Very cute. Alright, now I need to go grab all this stuff and we'll do our handle. Right, now we're going to do our handles. These are not interfaced. It's up to you. If you want to interface them, go for it. I'm going to grab my ruler and I'm going to make a mark right down the center. You guys remember how we used to make handles with vinyl, that we'd fold them in on themselves and then fold them again and sew them instead of using webbing? Y'all remember those days? Alright, so we're putting a line down the center. Then I've got some 1/2 inch double-sided tape. I'm going to put that right down the center. Alright, now you're going to remove the paper. Fold each side. You're not going to put it on the line, you're going to put it right beside the line so that it will be able to fold in on itself. And then press that down and then fold them together. I'm going to use a couple of clips to keep them together, and then we're going to take them to the sewing machine. And we want this to be a continuous stitch. So I'm going to start like right about here. So down, up, over, around, and back. And that way it's continuous. Instead of starting at the edge, going down, up, and around, you'd have that open edge still. We're going to start, I'll show you, we're going to start here and then go all the way around. So let's go do that. I've got a 4-stitch length and I'm starting a little bit further down. So you can see this is my end right here. I'm going 1/8 of an inch around the edge. Last step and we're almost done. Okay, this is what your handles should look like after you get done sewing and you've sewn all the way around. It looks like one continuous stitch. The next thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to put a hole at 1/4 of an inch in from the end of your handle. Then from that hole, measure 2 inches to get your second hole spot. Okay? Alright, cool. Now grab your bag and your handles. I'm going to take one of my rivets with the stems and I'm going to put it through the very edge hole, and then what we're going to do is we're going to put our handle through like this and then bend it over and then push your stem through. Then we're going to grab a cap and push those together. Then we're going to grab another stem, put it through your handle, and then take your strap and put it through that rectangle piece. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. And then back up through that top hole, press that up, and then put your cap on. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take this to your cam press or whatever press you have and then press those together. I'm going to grab this second handle. I'm going to put, let's see, yeah. I'm going to put my stem through the right side, or one side, put it through the rectangle, back up, there's one, take another stem, and then let's see if you guys can even see this, like that. Match up the holes. And then the last thing you got to do is go and press these. Now what I like to do is take my handle and kind of like bend it a little bit and kind of try and train it to stand up like this. Like I'll leave it on my desk like that so that it'll train itself to look right. Because see, this one kind of looks goofy. But if you leave it like that for a little while, the handle will train itself to look nice like that. Press those in place and then we'll do a crossbody strap. Alright, now we're going to make our crossbody strap. I always use 60 inches of webbing. It's up to you, whatever you want to use. We've got our 1-inch strap adjuster and then our 1-inch swivel clasps. I've got 2 of those. Take one end of your webbing through your strap adjuster like that and then back down your strap adjuster. I like to clip mine in place and then just take everything to the sewing machine all at one time. Just makes things a little bit easier. Alright, with the part that's folded over, we're going to go down to the other end, keeping everything nice and straight, not twisting it up. We're going to take one of our swivel clasps and we're going to put it on so that the bar is on top of that strap. And then we're going to take this end of our webbing and we're going to take it back through the strap adjuster hole that is closest to us. So this hole right here, like so. And then we're going to take it back down the other side of the strap adjuster, so back down that side. And it should look like that. Now we're going to grab our other swivel clasp, and this time, instead of being on the bottom, the swivel clasp is going to be on the top. And then you're just going to take your webbing and fold it over. And you can put as much or as little on the other side as you want. It's up to you. So it's going to look like that. Now what you're going to do is take this to your sewing machine and just make a little square to sew your webbing together. Alright guys, so what did you think? I hope you guys liked this video. I hope you love the pattern. Let me know in the comment section down below if you've purchased it, you've made it. Don't forget, there is a Faithwerks Designs show-off group, so make sure that you come and show us all of your goodies. You guys have been making your pumpkin bags here recently, and I love seeing them so much. Thank you guys for sharing them on the page. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, or if you want to subscribe so you don't miss any of the new patterns for next year. I am taking a little bit of time off between October and the beginning of the year to just kind of like decompress for a minute, start a few other projects. Just ignore her. I'm starting a few more projects that I'm just kind of working on, some free patterns and some other things that I want to do. Just kind of things on my bucket list that I'm doing. So make sure that you subscribe because there's going to be a lot of stuff coming up in the beginning of January. I mean, there's stuff up until January, but the good stuff is coming in January, hopefully. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section down below. I do check those daily. Thanks for joining us again on Faithwerks Designs. Bye guys.